How far have you got on Assassination of Gianni, Versace,
Right.
American Crime Story?
Let me talk about this. I have seen 3 episodes.
Yeah, me too.
However, if we weren't doing a Ready podcast, I would be watching 4 now.
Yes, me too. To an extent, if I had time, yes.
Oh my god, you do have time because this time we're using to do a podcast.
Because
So,
that third episode was amazing,
Incredible.
and the second episode had its moments as well with Phil Collins in particular.
Well, he wasn't in it. We should
No.
stress that.
No.
Can I just say as well before we start on this, I have realised, I think I've known it but never said it on the podcast, I struggle with things that are based on real, with dramas that are based on real events and real people.
Which plays into the next.
Yeah, which plays into this. I know a lot of people rave about The Crown. I've no interest in seeing it. No interest in seeing it at all, because I think it would just be like watching people impersonate the Queen and Prince Charles and all those people and deciding whether they do a good job or not. And I can sort of let it go for the things that Jeff Pope has done, like Mrs. Biggs and Appropriate Adult, because I don't really know.
And Three Girls as well.
3 Girls, obviously, yes. But I really, really enjoy the Assassination of Gianni Versace, apart from, and this is going to sound awful, the bits with Versace and Penelope Cruz as Donatella. I think
Ricky
Penelope
Martin.
Cruz. Yeah, I think they're all doing fantastic acting and really great.
No, I mean, I like the actor. Who's the actor who plays Versace? I think he's doing a good job.
I meant to Google that earlier. I will.
But they're not in it that certainly in the scene, because it all sort of flips around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And certainly in the scenes after he's died, the stuff with Penelope Cruz, Donatella, and Ricky Martin as his boyfriend, they're in it less, and I don't think it affects it in the same way as John Travolta and David Schwimmer did in the O.J. Simpson series.
No.
And I think Penelope Cruz, especially, I really enjoy. I think I'm struggling to get over the fact that it's Ricky Martin, but apart from that, yeah. But I could see where you're coming from there.
That's kind of an unfair thing to say, because it's really the biopic of the disturbed serial killer Andrew Cunanan, who is portrayed in this. We've discussed it before, by Glee's Daren Criss, who I find absolutely mesmerising and fascinating and toe curling and all the things you're supposed to find. I just thought I could spend, and he is an absolute psychopath, and he is a dangerous
sociopathic
person. But I could spend. I don't need the Gianni Versace stuff. It doesn't need to be there for me. It could just be following him around, which is why the 3rd episode, which took place before the events in Miami in '97 and focused on, I think, his 3rd killing and then subsequently his 4th, was just so incredible, because it followed him around Chicago. It followed this elderly couple and him being the elderly male being a closeted homosexual.
He was the industrialist, wasn't he? He was one of the most famous people in Lee was his first name. I can't remember his surname, and you saw him at the start. His wife played. I thought she was fantastic, Judith Light, in this, who we've seen in stuff really like Transparent and things like that. She's like on a shopping network. They're both well known in the Chicago area, but he's as you say, closeted homosexual, has used Andrew as an escort before, I think, because they've got a previous relationship, but he sort of takes against him and ends up, as you say, killing him. Even though Versace's name is in the title, this one, Versace, doesn't feature in at all. Just go back to the 2nd episode as well, which sort of focuses on the events sort of leading up to the Versace murder and Andrew coming to Miami. You get his sort of friendship, or sort of manipulation of this other sort of escort guy who sort of paroles the beach. Who is he recovering from AIDS? Is that what we're led to believe?
Yeah.
Andrew ends up seducing another old man and covers his face in gaffer tape and dances around to Easy Lover by Phil Collins in a very sort of...
The gaffer tape thing is really unnerving as well.
Yeah, because he uses that again
during the 3rd episode as well as a sequence.
But that whole Easy Lover thing, it did remind me of the American Psycho sequence with Huey Lewis in the News, I believe that was. But this is, I think this is a really good scene, and it stuck with me. And then that 3rd episode was just completely spellbinding, and it sort of explored how hard it was for Lee to cope with how he felt about men, and just like his memory tarnished by the fact that Andrew sort of, put him in women's underwear and put gay porn mags around his body and things like that. And it's just, it is a fantastically made series, I think.
If this Andrew Cunanan character is anything like this creation of Ryan Murphy's, then he's a fascinating character.
I don't know how.
As I finished episode 3, I wanted to go and Google him and find out more about the person that I'm watching. I didn't, because we're doing a bloody podcast. But seeing how this is getting in the way of my everyday life.
It is based on a book that was written about the incident and is adapted by Tom Rob Smith, I think he's called, who did London Spy and is the partner of Ben Stevenson,
it's really
former head of drama.
And actually, Matt and I are 2 behind the BBC showing, because they've got episode 5 on Wednesday night as well.
Yeah,
I believe all of them so far are on the iPlayer. If you just somehow missed it, but yeah, I know you said you've got time issues, which is fair enough, but I'm sticking with this.
Yeah, me too.
And I do think Penelope Cruz is doing a good job, and everyone is doing a good job in those scenes. It's just hard because they're portraying real people and sort of doing a take on them, if you like, and I struggle with that. It might just be a weird
No, I know what you mean. It's sort of it's the more heightened stuff, isn't it? It's sort of more soapy. You've got the big house, you've got the big dresses, the big hair, the stuff. But they looked at the stuff with the feud between the two, almost, with that fashion show. That was possibly the weakest stuff, with the the size 0 models and things like that. But yeah, it is at its most fascinating when it focuses on Andrew, and I agree with you, Daren Criss is fantastic. I think both of us are enjoying this a lot more than the OJ one.
What I should say is that all the criticism I've seen levelled at this, from specifically US critics, they seem to dislike it for all the reasons I like it. And in the case of the OJ Simpson one, everybody liked it for the same reasons I disliked it. They liked the bonkers nature of it, and David Schwimmer and John Travolta, and I hated all of that. And this is more centred in a form of reality that I can understand and get my head round. It doesn't feel so panto and hammy, and I really enjoy it. But a lot of people think that the tone is too dark, and they were used to the more fun,
the Ryan Murphy-ness of it all.
The Ryan Murphy-ness of Series 1.
Who I don't think has as much to do with this. Just looking, he's only directed the first episode, and he's not written any of it. It's all Tom Rob Smith adapting this book. So, I think he's had a minimal influence over this, whereas like the OJ one, he directed half of the series.
And as we discussed, I think we discussed a few weeks ago on the podcast, Ryan Murphy being sort of taken under Netflix's wing, these shows are going to continue without him, sort of thing. And if this is what it's like without him, then I'm looking forward to the rest of the American Crime Stories.